last laugh. Trump celebrates as Kimmel gets the hook. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
All the news you need to know.
This is Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
ABC is not joking around. The American network has yanked Jimmy Kimmel Live off the air, suspended indefinitely for these remarks that Kimmel made in the aftermath of the assassination of American conservative organizer and Trump supporter Charlie Kirk.
He had some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
During that same monologue, Kimmel went after Trump, joking about whether Trump was really grieving over the murder of Charlie Kirk.
You can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House.
Yes. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction.
It was all too much for some, like Nexstar, which owns about 36 television stations in the United States that are ABC affiliates. It said it wouldn't air the Jimmy Kimmel Show anymore. That company said it strongly objected to those remarks. There was also condemnation for Kimmel from the head of the American Broadcasting Regulator, Brendan Carr of the FCC. On a podcast this week, Carr suggested the FCC could revoke ABC affiliate licenses as a way to force the network to discipline Kimmel. Carr was on Fox News last night.
Yeah, broadcasters are different than any other form of communication, including here. We're on cable right now. Fox News doesn't have an FCC license. CNN doesn't. But ABC, CBS, NBC, those broadcast stations do. And with that license comes a unique obligation to operate in the public interest. And over the years, the FCC walked away from enforcing that public interest obligation. I don't think we're better off as a country for it. But look, President Trump ran directly at these legacy broadcast outlets, and he exposed them to these market forces. And a lot of these affiliate groups said, to your point, we're tired of carrying this stuff. Late night shows, something's gone seriously awry there. They went from going for applause, from laugh lines to applause lines. They went from being court jesters that would make fun of everybody in power to being court clerics and enforcing a very narrow political ideology. And Nexstar, as you noted, stood up and said, look, we have the license and we don't want to run this anymore. We don't think it serves the interests of our community. Sinclair did the same thing. So there's more work to go, but I'm very glad to see that America's broadcasters are standing up to serve the interests of their community. We don't just have this progressive foie gras coming out from New York and Hollywood.
As you could well imagine, U.S. President Donald Trump is thrilled. In a posting on social media, Trump congratulated ABC for doing, quote, what had to be done. He said Kimmel has zero talent and was ratings challenged. He then encouraged NBC to fire both Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers, calling them both total losers. While Trump does a victory lap, others say this is a dark turn for America. Speaking on MSNBC, Senator Bernie Sanders said the United States is now one step closer to authoritarianism.
Look, I mean, you've heard me say this a million times. This country is rapidly moving toward an authoritarian form of society. In authoritarian countries like Russia and others, Saudi Arabia, you do not have a media that is allowed to be critical of the government. Trump just, what was it yesterday, the day before, announced a $50 billion lawsuit against the New York Times. Today, the head of the FCC basically says, I don't like what this guy said, and we could take away your license. You better get rid of him. So this is just another step forward, and we have got to, some of us are working really hard to rally the American people, not only against this authoritarianism, but this war against the working class.
Speaking with Anderson Cooper on CNN, journalist and podcaster Kara Swisher said Nexstar, the owner of all of those ABC stations, is trying to do a $6 billion merger with another company. That merger needs the approval of the FCC. She claims that company wanted to get rid of Kimmel because it didn't want to be offside with the Trump administration.
Anything he can do to shake them down on behalf of Donald Trump, he's doing, which is including these people who are alleged free speech warriors have turned out to be, cancel culture fans. And so, Jimmy Kimmel also tweeted something out saying he was so sorry for this death and we should put aside our differences. He's a comic. Comics should be able to make jokes. I don't understand, of all the people that should have free speech, comics should absolutely have free speech. And so this week has been sort of an object lesson that they never really cared about free speech. They just care about power. And that's what's happening here.
But on Fox News, some see a late night host who had it coming. This was Sean Hannity.
The left already, starting with Humpty Dumpty, fake news, CNN, J.B. Pritzker, Gavin Newsom, predictably claiming this is conservative censorship. The MAGA crowd, Donald Trump got Jimmy Kimmel. That is false. I can't find a single prominent conservative voice in the country that even remotely wanted or hoped or was pushing to get Jimmy Kimmel taken off the air. Nobody. It just was simple. People changed the channel. They didn't watch him. Not one person can I think of. Maybe there's one, but I can't think of them. Now, truth be told, Jimmy Kimmel's show was failing spectacularly. I've seen the ratings. They're awful. His ratings are far below even that of Stephen Colbert, who was canceled.
Yes, Jimmy Kimmel is the second casualty of the late-night talk show host versus Donald Trump. Paramount announced earlier this summer that it was canceling The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, citing financial reasons. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know, and this is News Radio.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
With my friend on the right side of things, Michael Taube is back with us, syndicated columnist and speechwriter for former Prime Minister Stephen Harper. Welcome back. Good to hear from you.
Hey, how are you doing, Rob?
Very good. Very good. Well, I mean, let's talk about the big story from the world of entertainment/politics. What do you think about ABC's decision to suspend the Jimmy Kimmel show?
Yeah, I mean, look, although some people have been sort of screaming that this is an example of the right performing something like, muzzling free speech or, participating in cancel culture or the like, it actually really doesn't have much to do with it. And this is not an ideological framework. It's not. Again, as you know, Rob, and it's not a big secret, I've made no secret of it, I'm one of the bigger free speech absolutists in the Canadian media and beyond, and I have written about it extensively for Canada, the U.S., UK, and elsewhere. I understand this issue extremely well. I've defended it, not just for right-leaning individuals, but left-leaning individuals, and it's very easy to make a distinguishment between what is free speech or what is not being allowed in terms of a person being allowed to express their free speech, which is not the case with Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel, and I'm sure you've already probably talked about the incident as well, although we can certainly discuss it.
Well, let's play the clip. Why don't we play the clip?
Sorry?
The clip will set it up. Let's play the clip. The clip will set it up. Okay, from the monologue, from the first clip that we just played. Curtis, let's play it again.
He hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
I mean, that's the clip that got his show suspended.
Right. And understandably so. It was vile what he said, because it was vile what he said, and it was wrong. By the time he had said it, it had already been determined that this kid, whose name we don't have to mention, but we've all heard it a million times now, was part of the MAGA gang and that he was inspired by them, when in fact, based on everything that has come out thus far, I think it's fair to say that the alleged shooter was not on the right of the political spectrum, which his parents have alluded to, the governor of Utah, Mr. Cox has alluded to, and there is now some suggestion that the FBI has slightly revealed, but that probably there is more to come, that he was actually inspired by Discord and a bunch of other left-leaning sites and ideologies that seem to change his views and the way he looked at things, apparently according to his parents or his mother anyways, just within the last year. and we also know that he was involved with his partner who was a man transitioning into a female. I believe that's still going on as we speak. Regardless, there were a whole bunch of other things there that don't necessarily connect all the lines that Jimmy Kimmel was saying. And although it's true, as some have said, that at the very beginning was being discussed, it's been discounted over the last few days, other than obviously Mr. Kimmel and others who just like to propagate. But regardless, the point is that no one is restricting Jimmy Kimmel or anyone else from holding these repugnant views. He's allowed to. He can express them. He can believe them. He can support them. The difference here in this instance is, unlike cancel culture or restricting his free speech, which they're not, this was a decision made by a business who decided that Kimmel's viewpoints were unacceptable to them. That's something they did not want represented on their platform, on their TV network, and that's why his show was preempted. That's why it's been canceled indefinitely, according to Nexstar Media, ABC News, etc., and that's why they're not moving forward. This has nothing to do with free speech. It has nothing to do with cancel culture. It's a business's decision to make, and that private organization is allowed to decide if they want to display or distribute a show with a comedian claiming to make ridiculous comments, vile comments, inaccurate comments, or not, and they chose not to.
Okay, but do you not think that there was any political pressure here? The chair of the FCC, well, it's a political appointee, a Trump supporter, Brendan Carr. I'm just going to quote here from this podcast that he did a few days ago. What people don't understand is that broadcasters have a license granted by us at the FCC, and that comes with its obligation to operate in the public interest. When we see stuff like this, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. These companies can find a way to change conduct on Kimmel, or there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead. In other words, was there political pressure put upon ABC to cancel this show? What do you think?
Well, there could have been political pressure. Obviously, I think it's been alluded to and suggested that that's the reason Tucker Carlson was fired by Fox News, among other things. And we know that obviously there's a litany of other parts to this, including the Dominion computers. But regardless, the FCC has been, shall we say, a politically charged organization for a long time, whether there's a Democratic president in place or a Republican president in place. And again, people are allowed to express their point of view. That's what also free speech, free expression, difference of opinion is allowed for. You are allowed to have people at the FCC or otherwise at the White House, in the Senate, in the House of Representatives, or just in an average American's home who just basically say that they're not pleased with it and they decide to express their point of view. It's up to the private organization, that being a TV network, the TV distributor, whomever, to make the decision whether they want to listen to it, whether they want to agree with it, or whether they want to act upon it. So whether it was politically charged or not, it is ultimately the private organization's decision to make, and they've made it.
Okay. When we come back, Donald Trump. It's the royal treatment from King Charles. We'll be right back with Michael Taube, syndicated columnist, speechwriter for former Prime Minister Stephen Harper. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
There is no question Rob won't get answered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues
on News Radio.
Here with Michael Taube. He's with us every Thursday. Syndicated columnist, speechwriter for former Prime Minister Stephen Harper. Hey, you remember when King Charles came to Canada? Mike, you remember that day? Did the throne speech?
I think most do, yes.
And so many people were so happy because during the throne speech, there were remarks in there about that seemed to suggest, hands off Trump, hands off Canada. We're free, we're sovereign. Well, I would like to know, all of these many months later, what you think about the same King of Canada, King Charles, hosting Donald Trump, and I mean going all out and giving him the royal treatment, horse-drawn carriages and the whole thing. What do you think about that?
Well, two very different events. I mean, the first one, I think we can chalk up to the history and tradition of the monarchy speaking in a different country, in this case being Canada. They don't write the speech that is presented to them. They give the speech that is presented to them. Of course, naturally, the previous Queen, Queen Elizabeth II, and King Charles, either one of them could have obviously said something or objected, or some of their staff or advisors could have. But generally speaking, the tradition is that if they are handed something and it seems to be tangible enough, they'll do it, obviously, and they'll usually do it word for word. It's pretty rare that they make any changes, and I'm actually not even familiar with that, especially when it's the opening of Parliament, which is crafted and created by the government in power. And I was part of an opening of Parliament. I know how it works, and I know that speechwriters like me at the time would obviously contribute parts of any sort of a speech that, in this case, the Prime Minister, Stephen Harper, my old friend and boss, was giving, the same way that they would craft a speech for the King of England having come over, hand it to him, and unless there was something very strange there, they would move forward. Now we're looking at a situation, talking more currently, of something going on in England itself, which is part of the pomp and circumstance that any monarchy or any monarch would give to the leader of a country that has come over to visit. And the case being, whether you like him or not, U.S. President Donald Trump is a very powerful leader from a powerful country, and the alliance between the U.S. and the U.K. has existed for decades and for centuries. Sure, they've had issues against one another. They fought wars against one another, but they've been on side for a long time. And I would argue since the days of George W. Bush welcoming Tony Blair as his first international leader. It wasn't Canada. It was actually the UK when Bush's first term began. That has been a sign that the U.S. and the UK have always had a close relationship. Are Trump and Starmer on side in a lot of things? Of course not. Are they trying to make nice with one another? Yes. Is King Charles also following suit that way? Yes. And that is the way he should do it.
I just wonder if some people will see King Charles and Donald Trump getting along so well and think back to that throne speech and look at that in a different light.
Well, as I said, the tradition is that the king does not get involved. So if that is the case, and that's always been the understood example and case, why would they think any differently? Other than, sadly, and you and I both know it, people don't learn, they don't read, they don't understand, they just follow. Or they're triggered by a whole bunch of things. And that's a real problem with society and an issue with society more than Donald Trump, the King of England, or whomever else.
Okay. Thank you so much for today. Great to get caught up on these very interesting stories and issues, Michael. We'll speak next week. Bye-bye.
They always are indeed. My pleasure. Take care.
Michael Taube, syndicated columnist, speechwriter for former Prime Minister Stephen Harper, with us every Thursday. We'll talk about Canadian political issues when we're back right after the news. The Thursday Newsday political panel coming right up. You're on News Radio.
You have questions.
Now You Know with Rob Snow has the answers.
On News Radio.
Well, it's time for our Thursday Newsday political panel. Back to talk sense into me is Geoff Turner. He's Vice President at Bluesky Strategy Group. How are you today, Geoff?
Hey, Rob. Good to be with you and your listeners.
Yeah, very good to hear from you, along with Devin McCarthy, who is a partner at Sussex Strategy Group. Devin, how are you today?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
Very good. First time for you. Thanks for taking the time for us. I want to begin with what I think is a very, very important story in Canadian politics, and that is Prime Minister Carney and his direction to the Justice Department for arguments at the Supreme Court on Section 33 of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which is affectionately known as the Notwithstanding Clause. The Notwithstanding Clause was the grand bargain between Pierre Trudeau and the provincial premiers that helped repatriate the Constitution and create the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. That would not have happened without a Notwithstanding Clause. Now, the Carney government is going to argue in the Supreme Court that there should be limits on the use of Section 33, the Notwithstanding Clause. My own opinion is that is not going to go over well in Quebec. Mr. Carney would not be prime minister without the support he enjoyed in Quebec in the last election. This will also give new momentum to the PQ, already leading in the polls in Quebec and already promising another referendum. This will put wind in their sails. Geoff Turner, what do you think about this decision by the prime minister?
Geez, Rob, I mean, as you look around this world and everything that's going on right now, it sure seems like a pretty good time to shore up our civil rights. As much as I agree with you, it's going to be a very big issue in Quebec, and it is a part of a longer tradition there than it is in the other provinces who have more recently taken up its use proactively and preemptively for legislation they know will not pass muster with the courts. However, at a certain point, how long do we trade politics and political expediency for our civil rights as we look around at the degradation happening, in particular in the United States, around their constitutional rights, which seemingly mean nothing anymore? And so I don't think it's a bad time to get moving on that. It's been an issue of contention for many years around Quebec Bill 21, and in particular Ontario's use around some of its legislation that it ended up actually walking back on its own because it knew that it was not in the right place. Two things just for your listeners and for us just to keep in mind, like what is being asked here by the Prime Minister to the Supreme Court for a reference on is, one, the ability to allow lower courts and the Supreme Court in the event of a case against the notwithstanding clause for the courts to simply say, yes, the rights have been violated. Not to strike them down, not to strike down the notwithstanding clause itself, but simply to officially say, yes, your rights were violated, but they were violated using the notwithstanding clause. I think that's a fair transparency measure at the very least. We should not just speculate about that. We should know if the province or government is taking away your rights. I think the second piece is probably a little bit more for Quebec, especially a little bit more concerning if you're a supporter of using that for your own aims. It says if you're continually using it time after time after time on the same legislation, you're effectively changing the Constitution. You're permanently removing someone's charter rights. Because it's not a one-time thing. It's not response to a court judgment that you want to try over again or you want to do a different way. That's sort of the intention of the framers in that repatriation constitution was, hey, we think if the courts make a bad call and it usurps the power of the legislature, that we should have the ability to reverse that and I think ideally figure out a way that is compliant. But what the governments have been doing in this last few years is saying, we're not going to bother respecting your charter rights. We're going to do what we find politically expedient, and we'll just redo it every 5 years. And that's effectively changing our Constitution without doing it the proper way. Okay.
What do you think, Devin?
I would agree with Geoff on, those are certainly the legal issues that are at play. I think on the public debate, there's sort of a more fundamental tension, right? Protecting charter rights versus respecting provincial autonomy. And there are risks to Prime Minister Carney in that debate, in moving that debate forward or instigating that debate. In Quebec, as you mentioned, Rob, Section 33 is almost sacred. If this feels like undermining provincial powers, it could cost some crucial support in that province and seats potentially in the next election. On the flip side, just talking about that national mood, that public debate across Canada, I do think that many people are uneasy with governments using Section 33 too loosely. Certainly, there has been an uptick in its usage since 2017. And I think that's the sentiment that Prime Minister Carney is tapping into. I think wherever the Supreme Court lands on the legal arguments, it is going to redefine in some ways the balance between provincial autonomy and the federal oversight. And it could also introduce tension between Carney and the premiers when that seems to be going quite well. I mean, the response to the efforts around projects of national interest seems to have engendered more partnership, federal-provincial partnership than we've seen in certainly the last 9 years. And, driving forward legal issues like this at this time might introduce some tension where things seem to have been moving forward pretty swimmingly lately.
Okay, off to a good start. We'll be right back. Lots more to talk about on the Canadian political front today with our panelists here on our Thursday Newsday political panel. I'm Rob Stowe. This is Now You Know on News Radio.
No question goes unasked or unanswered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow returns on News Radio.
Back with our Thursday Newsday political panel, Devin McCarthy from Sussex Strategy Group and from Bluesky Strategy Group, Geoff Turner. Devin, what does Prime Minister Carney hope to gain with his meeting today with the Mexican president?
In the last NAFTA renegotiation, Canada and Mexico did really well by sticking together. I found late last year, early this year, that alliance was fraying. I think some in Canada were arguing that Trump's real issue was with Mexico. Certainly the fentanyl issues at the border, much more fentanyl crossing the Mexico-United States border than Canada-United States. China effectively setting up factories in Mexico to flow goods into the United States. And there were some calls, almost to throw Mexico under the bus to get a better deal for Canada. Since then, it's become clear. I think Trump's trade fire is also aimed squarely at Canada, completely independent of Mexico. So the pendulum has swung back. Political and industry leaders are working hard to shore up the relationship with Mexico in the face of the impending CUSMA renegotiation. So I think he's looking to strengthen the partnership, prepare for CUSMA renewal, and look for other opportunities to cooperate beyond trade on shared priorities. But I think everybody right now is focused on CUSMA renegotiation and how do we shore up alliances in the face of the threats from the Trump White House.
What do you think, Geoff? What's the Prime Minister hoping to get from this meeting with the Mexican president?
Yeah, first, just want to strongly agree with Devin. And I think that look in the spring was not a good one for us, and certainly strategically hasn't worked out very well. And so repairing that damage, I think, is definitely one of those priorities. I think building the relationship stronger. The old saying is the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is today. I think it is time that we really start to forge better relationships with the Mexicans. I think they always have been seen in the eyes, of Canadian governments, Canadians as sort of that junior partner that we don't really have much real interface with. They're kind of the Americans have that main view to them, and for us it's a vacation destination and a place that we get some produce comes up obviously through NAFTA and other products. I think we have to really make that a much more sophisticated view. I saw those comments in some publications today. There's a former Mexican ambassador doing the rounds who's saying exactly that, which is Canadians and Canadian governments have not appreciated the size, the capacity, the true nature of the Mexican state. We again see it as a vacation destination, as opposed to a large functioning country. And I think we need to repair that. And because at the end of the day, and it's exactly what kind of happened in the spring, Trump's playbook is divide and conquer with his own people, with the world, with NAFTA. And if we are divided, if we cannot find common ground to try to moderate that discussion, we're on our own. And as Devin said, we're squarely in the crosshairs too. So we need friends in those processes.
Okay. So Devin, when you're saying, the remarks that we were hearing, say, before the election, are you talking about remarks from Doug Ford, the Ontario Premier Doug Ford, who was saying things like, well, maybe we should just do a bilateral agreement with the United States and leave Mexico out of it? All of these problems are because of Mexico? Or is that what you're talking about? Is that what you're referencing?
It is. It's exactly that sentiment.
Geoff, are you referencing Doug Ford and what Doug Ford was saying at the time?
Yeah, I don't think he was the only one, but as Doug Ford does, he gets all the attention. And so he certainly got all the attention for that comment. And I think what we see now is like the idea of some Fortress Pan Am or whatever he was calling it. It's just a folly. And I don't think Canadians particularly want to fortress up with America right now based on what we're seeing and how we're being treated.
So given this meeting, then, do you see any, potential division then between like Doug Ford and Mark Carney, because they seem to be getting along swimmingly? Devin, what do you think there?
I think that the sentiment of premiers has swung back to cooperation, that there is no easy fix here. that sort of cut Mexico loose, drive home a bilateral sort of master agreement with the United States. Certainly one has not happened despite, months of negotiations between the Carney government and the White House to date, trying to solve for steel tariffs, aluminum tariffs, auto tariffs. I think now all signs are pointing to resolution through the renegotiation of CUSMA. And, as we've been discussing, it's better to have Mexico sitting beside us at the table rather than sort of across from us at the table. Will we stay aligned with Mexico throughout the negotiations? That remains to be seen. There's certainly going to be areas where we feel more strongly on certain points and they feel more strongly on others. But I do think that starting the process aligned is much better than starting it divided.
Fair enough. Geoff, do you see this as any kind of fissure between Ford and Carney? The fact that the Prime Minister is having this meeting?
I don't think so, because I think there's going to be a number of issues where they agree strongly and disagree, and this is going to be one where they may disagree. I've noticed Doug Ford saying it less and less, and I think more just out of I said that and I'm not backing down, but not actually pushing for it anymore. So I think we'll probably stop hearing that more and more. But it's because Ontario, our province, I'll say it as an Ontarian, our province stands to lose the most from the American situation. It's going to be hit the hardest. And so he's doing what he's got to do for his people, and he thinks that teaming up, that sort of Fortress Can-Am was the best strategy for the manufacturing heavy economy in Ontario.
Okay. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about the budget November 4th and what the PBO said at committee this week. This is News Radio.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now you know with Rob Snow.
Returns on News Radio.
Geoff Turner's here from Bluesky. Devin McCarthy from Sussex talking politics today. Jason Jock is the interim parliamentary budget officer. He was at the Government Operations and Estimates Committee this week. He was asked about fiscal anchors, fiscal targets, and operational budgets. Let's listen to what the PBO said. Play the clip.
I don't know that the government currently has fiscal anchors. Which, of course, causes the people that I work with a considerable degree of concern at this point. As everyone knows, the government did have fiscal anchors. The previous Minister of Finance had the fiscal anchor of a ceiling of the annual deficit at 1% of GDP, along with a declining debt to GDP ratio. It's unclear where those stand. They haven't been reiterated by the current government, to the best of my knowledge. With respect to your point regarding the capital and the operating side, we haven't seen a clear definition of what would fall into capital and what would fall into operating. So at this point, it's impossible for us and for you as parliamentarians to assess the likelihood or probability of the government hitting any fiscal target.
Not encouraging from the parliamentary budget officer. Budget day, we now know, is going to be November 4th. We don't see fiscal anchors. We don't know what is going to be considered a capital expense or an operational expense. And we don't have any confidence that fiscal targets are going to be met at all, hitting any fiscal target at all. What do you suppose the Carney government could do to cheer the parliamentary budget officer up, Geoff Turner?
I mean, for an inside Ottawa person, if you parse his words, I mean, besides the appropriate concern for the overall fiscal situation, that's well placed. I mean, he basically said, I haven't read the budget yet, because none of us have read the budget yet. The budget's coming in 5 weeks' time, and that's where all of that information is going to be put, and that's where those commitments will be made. So it's not a mystery that the government isn't out. Now, could they say in advance, these are our fiscal anchors? Yes, they could, but they come in the budget. The Prime Minister made clear that they're going to decline the debt every year, so that's one of those anchors from the previous Trudeau government's anchor set. Whether that's relative to GDP or not, again, we'll find out. They've committed to those 15% cuts in the public service operational budget. Those are underway now. Obviously, we're going to see and feel a lot of that over the coming years. And it's no mystery to everybody. I mean, the economy is very shaky right now, and we're feeling a lot of pain from what's happening with the U.S. trade situation and the global situation. And in the meantime, we also had an election where everybody promised to cut taxes, and they did. They cut middle-class income taxes. They reversed the capital gains tax. They eliminated the carbon tax. and another we're going to probably see rebates on GST for new homes. All of that stuff costs money, so I guess we'll just have to see whether they're taking the extra time from the budget was expected a couple of weeks from now. Now it's 5. It sounds like they need some extra time to make some tough decisions about whether they reverse some of those promises or not.
All right. We only have about a minute left. Devin, what do you think about what you're hearing from the PBO there?
Yeah. I mean, I think at the end of the day, this isn't just about technical definitions of fiscal anchors. It's about sound financial management, right? That was a cornerstone of Carney's election pledge. The idea that his experience would ensure discipline in Ottawa's finances. It was largely missing under the previous Liberal government. I think that's why the PBO's remarks sting a little bit. I mean, they raised doubts about whether those promises are being met, will be met, and then sharpen the focus on sound fiscal management ahead of the budget, which by all indications will have major investments attached to it in major projects, in housing, in defense spending. So I think there's a careful line here that the Prime Minister will have to walk.
Very good. Excellent conversation today. A little on the wonky side, just the way I like it. Thank you so much. We'll speak soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rob. Happy to serve.
Yeah.
Bye.
Geoff Turner, Vice President, Bluesky Strategy Group, and Devin McCarthy, Partner, Sussex Strategy Group. Talkback is coming up. I'm going to talk about Jimmy Kimmel right after the news set saga. Did that show deserve to be pulled off the air? They pulled Jimmy Kimmel off the air. Did he deserve it? What do you think?
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. Today, the Jimmy Kimmel suspension. Maybe it's a cancellation. Whatever it is, Jimmy Kimmel's run as a late-night talk show host appears to be over for now. Pulled off the air by ABC and will be off the air for the foreseeable future indefinitely. Indefinitely is what ABC is saying. This, as you may have heard by now, because of comments Jimmy Kimmel made about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. We're going to play the comment that ended the Jimmy Kimmel show, at least for now. Roll the tape.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
That's it. 12 seconds. 12 seconds. And he's off the air. And some people on the right, supporters of Donald Trump, they are very, very happy today. They did not like what Jimmy Kimmel said. They haven't liked Jimmy Kimmel for a long time, and they're thrilled that his show has been pulled off the air. And then there are some people on the left, and they're very upset with what has happened. And they see this as another sign that Donald Trump is trying to silence his critics, that Donald Trump is exerting more and more pressure on the American media, and that this Kimmel situation is just another sign of what they're calling authoritarianism. It's a sign that America is becoming a dictatorship under Donald Trump, because these are the actions of a dictator, to shut down criticism in the media. What do you think? 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. There are many ways to look at it. Another one would be Jimmy Kimmel said things that were not only wrong, but also offensive, objectionable, irresponsible, and ABC as a network has to answer to viewers. It has to answer to advertisers, and ABC and its affiliates were probably flooded with complaints after those Jimmy Kimmel remarks. And that's why they pulled the show off the air. They have to answer to viewers and advertisers. Now, there are a few other angles to this story to keep in mind as we start the discussion today here on Talkback at 1-833-668-2577. You have the FCC in the United States, a very powerful agency. And it's in charge of all the over-the-air broadcast licenses. It can cancel licenses. It can choose not to renew licenses for television stations. And the chair of the FCC now is a big-time Trump supporter. It's a political appointment. And he was talking to a podcaster after those Jimmy Kimmel comments aired and suggested that if Kimmel wasn't disciplined, that ABC television stations across the United States could lose their licenses, which could be interpreted as political pressure. You let this guy go, or we're going to revoke your licenses. Is that what's going on here? One of the big companies that owns a lot of these ABC affiliate stations is also trying to get approval for a $6 billion merger with another company. The agency that needs to approve that merger is the FCC. So there's also a line of thought that, well, the company doesn't want to be on the wrong side of Trump because it has a $6 billion merger at stake. It has to keep Donald Trump happy. So that's why Jimmy Kimmel was shown the door. This Kimmel suspension, maybe it's a cancellation, who knows? But it comes just months after a similar situation with Colbert and the Colbert Show. We remember Paramount announced this canceling Late Night with Stephen Colbert. Colbert also very critical of Donald Trump, but Paramount also settled a lawsuit with Donald Trump over the 60 Minutes interview with Kamala Harris during the election campaign. And Paramount was also trying to do a merger, massive merger with another big company called Skydance that was ultimately approved. The lawsuit settled. And around the same time, Colbert gets the news his show's going to be axed. Look, that's some of the background to all of this. Big picture, this story is not just about a comedian versus a president. There are a whole bunch of issues that come up with this Jimmy Kimmel story. Free speech, cancel culture, government influence over the media, government control over the media. We want to know today what you think about this. This is a major news story. Here are some questions. Give us a call, 1-833-668-2577, and have your say. Do you think Jimmy Kimmel's show deserved to be pulled from the airwaves because of those comments that he made about the assassination of Charlie Kirk, suggesting the shooter was MAGA? When you hear some people say these are the actions of a dictator, the United States is slipping into authoritarianism. Trump wants to silence his critics. Do you agree with that view? Or do you disagree with that view? And here's another one for you. Is this cancel culture by the right? Is this cancel culture by the right? And if it is cancel culture by the right, is the right being hypocritical? Because the right so often complained when right-wingers were being canceled by the left. Is this cancel culture hypocrisy by the right? Or is it a case of, well, the left can't complain about cancel culture, turnabout is fair play? I would love to kick this one around with you for a couple of hours. There's so many interesting issues at play here. Again, the call-in line is 1-833-668-2577. If you've never called before, mention that to us. We'll make your call a priority. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. It's Talkback. It's News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
So we're talking about the Jimmy Kimmel show being pulled off the air. Do you think Jimmy Kimmel's show deserved to be pulled from the airwaves because of the comments he made about the assassination of Charlie Kirk? When you hear some people say, well, these are the actions of a dictator. This is authoritarianism. Trump is trying to silence his critics. Do you agree with that view? Is this cancel culture by the right? 1-833-668-2577. Let's start with John in Halifax today. Hello, John. Hi, John.
How's it going? Thanks for taking my
Very good,
call.
John. My pleasure, John. First-time caller? Okay, great.
Yeah, first time caller. I guess the first thing I want to draw attention to is, there is free speech in America. The First Amendment protects the ability to speak freely. And I think, Kimmel's comments, obviously, totally provocative, arguably irresponsible in the sense that they presumed a political motive or, affiliation for murder, but without firm evidence. I totally understand that. But I think there's a responsibility in some ways that, people on airways, especially authoritative, people of authority or presumed authority, they can maybe unduly mislead viewers. They can, feed polarization, especially when we're talking something that's so sensitive. In the same sense, I think that I think pulling the show indefinitely is really a heavy-handed response.
Okay.
This is satire, right? It threatens, when you do that, it threatens to undermine, especially in America, maybe not here, but free speech and discourse, especially comedic commentary. I think that we miss the whole point. They're supposed to be a little bit edgy, right? And part of that humor takes some of the pain away. So, this is not new. This is not the first time this has ever happened. This normally follows really sensitive situations. So just to be brief, in conclusion, I think that I don't think Kimmel fully deserves to be taken off the air, but I don't think criticism and accountability, are totally unwarranted.
Let me ask you this. Just hold on before you hang up. Just let me ask you one thing. Do you think ABC caved to political pressure?
I think they heaved to cultural pressure. I think they realized that this is a sensitive issue. It does have political ties, but I think that even left and right, both of them, we hear both sides talking about how terrible this is. It has touched pretty much everyone, and even people who are not, people who are speaking out in I think most people consider inappropriate ways, they're being removed or canceled. So he's kind of in a list of people that have been speaking out, maybe at this point, a little inappropriate, a little too soon. You can imagine jokes about 9/11. Now that was a completely different.
Well, would you do that a week? Would you do that a week after 9/11 though? Right? It's a week ago yesterday. All this
probably
happened.
not.
Yeah. Probably not.
Probably not. No, exactly. So I think yes, there should be a suspension. In fact, even if there wasn't a suspension, there was just an apology. Listen, this is satire. I meant no offense, but this is what we do. Something. But I think ABC has removed his ability to be able to do that, and I think it's discrediting to him, and I think it also causes confusion.
Great call, John. You've got us off to a great start. Let's go to Cambridge. Sean is in Cambridge. What do you think about the Jimmy Kimmel show being pulled off the air, Sean?
I think it is a move by the Trump. I will not call it the administration. I call it the Trump regime because they're like a South American banana republic. He is attempting to silence his critics because I don't think Kimmel, it was satire. I think he told the truth. The MAGA people they do not like the fact the person who murdered Charlie Kirk was actually one of them, and they were trying to change the narrative. Look what they've done so far. They've silenced Columbia. They've gone after Harvard. They brought down Colbert. He is silencing all dissent like dominoes, one after the other. It's a terrible thing.
Okay. Why would a MAGA supporter assassinate Charlie Kirk?
Why? Because I think he was upset about the Epstein files. That is one thing. There are so many. He might not even be MAGA. He may have been just a hardline Christian conservative who was severely disillusioned by what Charlie Kirk was saying. Because some of the stuff he said was right out there. I mean, he could have just simply been a very troubled young man who is very conservative and Christian and disagreed with him, so he shot him.
Yeah,
Simple
there's not much. Based on what investigators have said so far, there's really not much evidence that he was in any way MAGA or a MAGA supporter, sir.
But he came from a Christian conservative background, and I think that
he did.
Who knows?
But he was also 22 years old.
Yeah,
he was also 22. He's not a kid. People keep calling him a kid. He was a 22-year-old man.
Yeah, and the FBI is being controlled by the White House. basically, by Patel.
Okay. So, I mean, this is another line that's out there. This is the United States slipping into authoritarianism, and it's Trump wanting to silence his critics, and you would agree with that view.
Yeah,
right? Fair enough,
look
sir.
what happened when
That's,
the
okay.
Democratic
Gotcha. Gotcha.
murdered.
Thank you. Got to run, though. I appreciate your point of view. It's a popular one. It's not the only one, though. We'll get some more. 1-833-668-2577. Jimmy Kimmel off the air after making comments about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Your thoughts, please. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We're talking about the Jimmy Kimmel show being pulled off the air because of comments he made about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Do you think that was deserved? Or the actions of a dictator? A U.S. president who wants to silence his critics because that's a popular opinion in American political circles. Finding out opinions here in Canada. Mike in Calgary. Hello, Mike. Hi, Mike.
How you doing, Rob?
Very good, Mike. What's your opinion?
My opinion is I'd be lucky to get through this conversation without swearing. That just chokes me, riles me right up. You listen to Fox Entertainment and see what they have to say. They're not pulling their anchors off, and they're lying to everybody.
Okay.
It just drives me right silly. The man had an opinion. Don't agree with it? Sue him, slander, libel, whatever. That's for the courts to decide. That's not for the guy that's running or supposedly president to decide who gets to talk and who doesn't get to talk. That's why we have the courts. But unfortunately now he owns the courts. So they're going to do whatever he wants anyway. So, Rob, what do you do?
Okay, so do you think then that ABC caved to the Trump people? Huge. Okay.
They caved
You
in
think
so
without the actions of the FCC chair as a political appointee, maybe Jimmy Kimmel's show is still on the air?
100%. Don't
100%?
they have? I'm not positive. I've only seen his show a couple of times. Unfortunately, I watched the other guy that they kicked out of TV for now. But don't they have a disclaimer at the beginning of every show that this is the view of the person and not the station?
I don't think so, but I'm the wrong person to ask because by the time these shows are on, I'm in Betty Buys. So I haven't watched one of these shows in a long, long time, to be honest with you. I go to bed so early, but yeah. It's not because I have anything against the hosts or anything. I just go to bed too early to watch any of it. So.
Well, I've been around. I just had a birthday, my 63rd, and I have never seen any level of government anywhere. Well, Marcos, I guess, and Putin, but nothing compared to what I'm seeing in the States right now. I mean, there are soldiers rolling in their graves, fighting for what they believe in, and he's just took it all away.
So, one of the questions I'm asking, when you hear people say these are the actions of a dictator, would you agree or disagree with that view? You would agree with that view? Yes?
Oh, 100%.
100%. Okay.
Smart people hate him.
Okay,
and
Mike.
there's a reason why.
All right, Mike. Thank you. I am going to try and fit in David here in Halifax. Hi, David. In Halifax?
Hi, how you doing today, Rob?
Very good, David. What do you think about this development?
Not to, I guess, kind of echo chamber a lot of the points that have already come across. I largely do agree with them. I'm not personally a Jimmy Kimmel fan. I frankly could care less about him. But the cancellation of his show, understanding, of course, that the network is sort of beholden to advertisers and, in this case, the FCC and government representatives that have been installed by the current administration. It is a broader part of a broader pattern of behaviors he has engaged in since the start of this term and actively spoke about in his campaign up to the start of this term, wherein he said he would install people who would actively go after anyone who dissented to his opinion. We are seeing it with universities. We are seeing it with certain Republican lawmakers kind of clamping down on things like critical race theory, teachers being fired for simply talking about gender issues. None of these are acts of political violence. in the same way that, frankly, Charlie Kirk absolutely was an agent of in bringing forward a lot of these policies. What Kimmel did wasn't even, he didn't make a joke. He didn't say anything false. This guy is, if he's not technically MAGA, and some of this is stuff that you almost need to be terminally online to understand in the contemporary landscape, he was what was known as a groiper, a fan of Nick Fuentes. I don't know if you're familiar with Nick Fuentes.
Yeah, I know about Groiper and Nick Fuentes and that kind of stuff. I don't know. That's not what we're hearing from investigators.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We're talking about the Jimmy Kimmel show being pulled off the air. Let's go to Dave in Halifax. Hi, Dave.
Yes, hello. Thanks for taking my call. I think
my pleasure, Dave.
Something that what we're overlooking as humanity is we're becoming desensitized, and how we can make jokes about a murder, cold-blooded assassination, and then assume what had actually happened, which Jimmy Kimmel got it wrong, and then you're just making jokes about something that you don't have. He hasn't done his homework on. So he's fabricating something to make his peanut gallery laugh. And I think the big thing is also is Charlie Kirk would not have wanted to see somebody shut down, because I think he was a strong advocate, of course, as freedom of speech. So the thing in with my feeling is that we've become desensitized, and I think we're to make a mockery of this, it's almost like demons have entered the humor and the way we are. Now, with those late night talk shows, I'm like you. The last one I watched was Johnny Carson. But you see enough of them, hear enough of them. They're very left-leaning. And, of course, you've got Fox that has right-leaning. Let's face it, you've got blinders on. You hear people that you've had on earlier that completely think it's a MAGA, this and that, or whatever. There's a hatred there. You can tell. I try to sort of see where this is all coming from. I'm a strong advocate for freedom of speech, and I think but you better make sure you've done your homework and get your facts right before you go out and try to make the audience, the sick audience, in my opinion, laugh about these things. And we're hearing so much, the hate that we see on the internet, some of the things, it's mind-boggling, it's shocking. And I think another thing we can't forget, the almighty buck when it comes to, just like your show, Rob, if you're not performing, you're not bringing in ratings, the advertisers don't care for you, whatever, you're gone. And in the world of arts and whatever and news, it changes all the time. Tucker Carlson, there's another one. Who would have thought he'd be let go? You know, there's money behind the scenes of everything. And if we're split down the middle. If you alienate half your audience, you're losing half your audience and then some. And wouldn't be surprised it is cancel culture as well on both sides. And we're just seeing a phenomenon. We're seeing a phenom right now, Rob, that is taking grip, and it's an evil one, to be honest with you. So
just to tie a bow on this, did he deserve to have his show pulled or not?
If he's losing money like he is, yeah, probably. They're tired. 15 years. He's a rich man. He's a very, very filthy rich man. Has made well. Both of them have, or all the night show hosts they have. 15 years is a good run, and it's getting stale. He's losing audience, and the fact is if they're losing sponsors, for whatever reason, Rob, things change in your business and in the business of Hollywood. It changes all the time. Nothing new.
I know all about it, sir. I've had 2 shows canceled, so you don't have to tell me about it. Thank you. Okay, thank you. I got to run. Thank you. Dave. So let's go to Stephen in Halifax today. Hi, Stephen.
Hey, how are you?
Very good, Stephen. What's your opinion on this?
Well, I don't think Jimmy Kimmel actually said that the person who shot him was right leaning. All he said is that the Trump side was trying to paint him as right leaning.
Well, let's listen to exactly what he said. Okay, let's listen because we know what he said. It's 12 seconds long. Let's listen to exactly what he said.
He hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
Other than anything but one of them is what he said.
didn't actually say that he was right leaning or left leaning. All he said was that the right was saying that the right was saying that he was anything but a right leaning person. But aside from that, is that the people do have freedom of speech, and whether you agree with Jimmy Kimmel or not, I don't think he should have had his show canceled for it.
Okay. Now that it's again not necessarily canceled, but off the air indefinitely. We'll see what happens with that. Some people are saying these are the actions of a dictator. That Trump is trying to silence his critics. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's leaning towards that way. Just even though things that you call Jimmy Kimmel names over Brett, like you call him a loser and no talent. Like how does he get away with saying things like that? So
okay.
I don't agree with that. I mean, what happened to Kirk was awful. I don't think anybody should be assassinated, whether I believe in what he said or not. I think that's the kind of thing should not happen. It's an awful, terrible thing that happened.
All right, I'm going to wrap up our conversation there because your cell phone is fading, Stephen. So I'll have to wrap it up there. Shaman in central Alberta. Shaman, up next. What's your opinion, Shaman? Very good.
I got some
what do you
quick
think?
points to make. I don't agree with silencing anybody. I don't think anybody should be kicked off the air or anything like that. But a couple of quick things. Everybody's talking about Trump. He's an easy scapegoat. Every time something goes wrong, Trump's the guy they point at. And the truth is, right now, Charlie's got a troop of people that are willing to light up phone lines and all sorts of stuff and apply pressure that has nothing to do with Trump. At the end of the day, everybody can blame Trump all they want. You don't know all of the stuff that went behind the scenes to actually decide whether or not Kimmel got pulled. And it could have been just to stop the phone lines from ringing. And after the fact, Trump is going to use anything to his narrative to push his narrative. He'll take credit for stuff that he didn't even have nothing to do with because it fits his political narrative. The bottom line, though, is at one point in time, we had a code of conduct on television. We had certain things that maybe we didn't talk about right away, or we danced around them a little bit more delicately. We had the 7 words you couldn't say on TV or radio. All sorts of stuff has gone to slide where there's no accountability. People think they can say or do anything they want from hiding behind a skateboard for however long. And I think that a lot of this has to do, just coming full circle, all of that stuff combined is why we're seeing what we're seeing right now.
Great call, Shaman. Thank you. 1-833-668-2577. Opinion is just all over the place on this one today, and we'd love your thoughts on it. We're talking about the Jimmy Kimmel show being pulled off the air. I mean, a show that's basically been in every Canadian household for the last 22 years. What are your thoughts, please? This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
On the Jimmy Kimmel show being pulled off the air. Jody is up next. Jody's in Calgary today. Hi, Jody.
Hey, how you doing?
Very good, Jody. What do you think about this?
I think it was the right thing to do. He actually he lied. Like it was a lie. What he said, it was a lie, and he's been talking, about Trump for years and years and years. Like, people get so sick of this. Like, him and Colbert, their comedy is about Trump all night long. Like, that's why Carson stayed on for so many years. He didn't do politics like these idiots. And so how's that like nobody's raising hell like whenever Don Cherry was canceled. Was canceled by.
Oh yeah, well, people did raise hell about that, Jody. I mean, I was doing radio back then when Don Cherry got fired, and believe me, people were raising hell about that. Don't kid yourself. And people are still raising hell about that. And how long ago was that?
God, I can't remember. It's been
eight or 9 years ago, something like that.
Yeah. But I mean, nobody was calling the government of Canada like the same, like talking whatever about this about the government of Canada, like they're talking about the government of the United States when that happened. Like, they're all blaming Trump on this. Nobody blamed Trudeau on the Cherry fiasco. So it's like the left always, like, it seems like they're always in the right. You know, if you know what I mean when it comes to this kind of situation. Now all the celebrities are going to be out and and they're going to be raising hell about Kimmel. But Kimmel was wrong. He was wrong what he said, and he should be fired, to be honest, because he's a clown. And same as when Roseanne Barr was canceled. Nobody batted an eye.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you go back, I had to remind myself of what Roseanne Barr tweeted. I mean, it was pretty bad. I mean, I'm not even going to get into it it was so racist. It was unbelievably racist. Like, I'm not even, people can go look it up for themselves and remind themselves about Roseanne Barr, but she had a top rated show. You're right. She was canceled for sure. But gosh, when you think about what she said, I mean, if I was a network, I couldn't have somebody like that on the air. No way. All right, Jody, I know where you stand. You're glad he's gone. Fair enough. Okay, let's go to Herman is up next. Herman. Hi, Herman.
How's it going, Rob?
Very good, Herman. Busy today. The hot one today. What do you think?
Yeah, it sure is. I think there's something different between the both of them.
Okay.
Charlie Kirk, he should not have been shot. That's without a doubt. Okay.
Well,
nobody should get shot for their thoughts. But he was shot based on social consequences. Jimmy Kimmel has had his freedom of speech trampled on. The government, he said something, and the government has taken actions against him. I think correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't that the definition of freedom of speech?
Okay. Now, some people are saying that these are the actions of a dictator. The United States is slipping into authoritarianism. Trump is trying to silence all of his critics, control the media. Do you agree with that, or what? What do you think?
I think a lot of
you
people,
do. Okay.
I don't know how you feel, but a lot of people get upset when you compare him to Hitler. But there was Jim Jeffries, the comedian, had a perfect quote. He is like Hitler, and people say you can't compare him because Hitler killed so many people. Hitler didn't kill all the people on the first day of business, right? He built up to it, and from what we're seeing, it seems like we're building up towards it. It really, it's a sad state of affairs.
Come on.
You think comparing him to Hitler?
Yeah, don't do that. Yeah. No, I don't think it's correct. No.
Why not?
No.
Why is that, though?
Well, Hitler committed a Holocaust, sir. First of all, he committed a Holocaust, murdered 6 million Jews.
Are we going to wait?
Is Trump
till he starts killing people? Till he starts killing South Americans and Muslims and anybody else he doesn't like? His first time around, he did a Muslim ban. So I'm just saying, like, I just thought that's my opinion, and I think he built up to it.
All right. I'd let you have your say. Herman, I disagree with a lot of what you say, though. As I'm allowed to do, but we'll do it without being disagreeable. That's kind of how we roll around here. 1-833-668-2577. I am going to have to stop here, though. The next caller, you'd only have 30 seconds. I want to give you a little more time than that. It's Talkback. We're talking about the Jimmy Kimmel show being pulled off the air. Was that deserved? Or the actions of a dictator? Have your say on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
What do you think about the Jimmy Kimmel show being pulled off the air? Karen in Calgary up next. Hi, Karen.
Hey, Rob. How you doing?
Very good, Karen. What's your opinion here?
Good. Well, I think it's well past due. And if Canadians want to talk about authoritarianism, who is sponsoring ABC? It's not tax dollars like the CBC here. It's really rich for Canadians to be bitching and complaining about how Trump is doing this and Trump is doing that. We're not even getting the right news here, because if you listen to the news, his father has disowned him because he was radicalized. That's the news.
Okay, so what do you think when you hear people calling this the actions of a dictator, and a president wants to silence his critics?
You want to talk actions of a dictator? We just got rid of one, and we're getting another one to replace him.
Okay, well, we had an election. We had an election, Karen.
Yes, it is, Rob. The guy is nuts. I'm sorry, but Canada has fallen so far behind to believe whatever the Americans
Okay,
tell
okay. You're a little off the topic, and you're wandering into things that are, we can talk about tomorrow on the Friday free for all. I want to stay focused on this. Okay, the Jimmy Kimmel show was pulled. Thanks, Karen. Jimmy Kimmel show was pulled from the airwaves because of the comments that he made about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Now, maybe that's a completely legitimate reason, as some of the callers pointed out, because it was inaccurate, insensitive, offensive, and objectionable. Others on the other side are saying this is authoritarianism. This is right out of the book of a dictator, silencing dissent, silencing dissenting views, and wanting more and more control over the media. Let's kind of stick to that, please. Eric in Cole Harbor. Let's go to Eric. Hi, Eric.
Hey, how you doing, Rob? Listen,
very good, Eric.
I'm going to be very quick. First of all, the first thing that comes to my mind when this whole brouhaha is that a kingdom divided against itself will fall, and that's exactly what's going on in the United States now. Charlie Kirk has been labeled as a right-wing radical, but the truth of the matter is he's a classic liberal because he exposed faith, country, and family, and he's sort of Gandhi-like because he did it. He never promoted violence. Now, if you want to see how the United States got itself in this mess, is go to Father Alter, Aliter. He'll tell you that the communists wanted to know in the 1920s how they could overtake America. And he said, well, they're a country that faith and family is very strong. So they decided to infiltrate the church. And secondly, they said, well, we'll demoralize their university students. So just look at what has transpired. The United States has gone from being a classic liberal country where there was room for both sides of the opinion to right now it's gone. It's totally divided, either on the left or the right. So this is what promotes.
As I told the last caller, we're trying to narrow focus it here. This guy said this about Charlie Kirk. Did he deserve to have his show pulled from the airwaves for what he said?
Well, I was going to finish up on Rob, if I may.
Okay, you may.
Okay. The thing is that the reason why we're such a divide, and everybody has to be so careful of what they say, is because of this divide. Did he deserve to? No, I don't think so. It's free speech. Did Charlie Kirk was he shot fairly or any kind of legitimacy because of what he exposed? That's where we're at in the United States right now. And if you look at the history of it, we're at a very bad divide. That's it.
Well, I would agree with you there, Eric. Yeah, I agree with you there. I'm glad we could end on an agreement. 1-833-668-2577. That's it for hour number one. It's in the books. It flew by. A full hour just ahead. If you're on the line, just stay on the line. Listen to the latest breaking news, bring you right up to date, and then right back to your phone calls on the Jimmy Kimmel Show saga. Hour number 2 of Talkback just ahead. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to hour number 2 of Talkback. We have been talking about the Jimmy Kimmel Show being pulled off the air indefinitely, according to ABC. Is that deserved because of the comments he made about the assassination of Charlie Kirk? Some people are saying Trump is behind this and they're the actions of a dictator. That Donald Trump wants to silence his critics. Do you agree with that view or not? 1-833-668-2577. Right back to it. Earl is up first in hour number 2. Hello, Earl.
Hi.
Hi, Earl. What's your opinion?
Hi, I just want to make a couple of points about this. And there's 3 people to discuss. One is Carr, the second is Trump, and the third is Kimmel. So when you look at Carr, he's the FCC chair. He tweeted a couple of years ago that the FCC's job is not to police public integrity or public utility or community standards or anything like that. I can't remember exactly how he phrased it. He seems to have done exactly the opposite in this. Second, Carr was one of the authors of Project 2025, in which they talked about using the Trump administration to push back on what they perceive as a liberal bias in the media and in Hollywood. And clearly that's what they're doing. Continuing with Carr just for a moment, he went on TV and threatened to, I think you pointed out earlier to threaten to not approve the merger of the companies, which is a $6 billion deal. And then after the firing of Kimmel, he went on to Twitter and thanked CBS or the company that was the underlying company for having the courage to uphold community standards. So that seems to be a little bit contradictory with Carr. I'll just stop for a moment if you want to talk about that, and then I'll talk about Trump.
Okay, well, let's listen. We have a clip of the FCC chairperson. Brendan Carr is his name. This is from the Sean Hannity show yesterday on Fox News. Play that, Curtis.
You can see how hard the president is taking.
Yeah, broadcasters are different than any other form of communication, including here. We're on cable right now. Fox News doesn't have an FCC license. CNN doesn't. But ABC, CBS, NBC, those broadcast stations do. And with that license comes a unique obligation to operate in the public interest. And over the years, the FCC walked away from enforcing that public interest obligation. I don't think we're better off as a country for it. But look, President Trump ran directly at these legacy broadcast outlets, and he exposed them to these market forces. And a lot of these affiliate groups said, to your point, we're tired of carrying this stuff. Late night shows, something's gone seriously awry there. They went from going for applause, from laugh lines to applause lines. They went from being court jesters that would make fun of everybody in power to being court clerics and enforcing a very narrow political ideology. And Nexstar, as you noted, stood up and said, look, we have the license and we don't want to run this anymore. We don't think it serves the interests of our community. Sinclair did the same thing. So there's more work to go, but I'm very glad to see that America's broadcasters are standing up to serve the interests of their community. We don't just have this progressive foie gras coming out from New York and Hollywood.
Brendan Carr, FCC chair. Any remarks on what you just heard there?
Yeah, I haven't heard those comments, but it does seem to be the exact opposite of what Carr tweeted in 2022, where he said that the FCC's job is not to police public, what was the phrase used there? Public integrity or whatever. So he seems to have gone against exactly what he tweeted in 2022.
Okay. So do you think Jimmy Kimmel deserved to be pulled off the air for the comments that he made?
Absolutely not. And I'll tell you why again.
Okay.
Moving on to Trump.
Yeah.
Trump has had, talked about being retribution against his enemies. He's talked about it a number of times, not just with media. He specifically, in advance of Kimmel ever saying anything, said he was going to go after the late night talk show hosts. When Colbert was gone, he took credit for that. When Kimmel was fired, he took credit for that. And I believe today he tweeted that the next targets are Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers. So it does appear that Trump is openly saying this is just one step along the way, rather than being specific to what Kimmel said on his talk show.
Okay. All right. He encouraged NBC to fire Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers. He called them total losers with bad ratings. Okay. Thank you. Let's take another call here. That's Earl. Albert is up. Is it Albert? Yeah, Albert up next in Halifax. Yeah. Hi, Albert. What do you think, Albert?
Okay, I believe first and foremost in free speech and expression of opinions, but what Kimmel was doing was just a little beyond expressing opinions or reporting facts. He did go out of line, which was a pure act of misinformation when he was accusing the killer of being part of Trump's support group. No, so would the president have the right to fire him? No. A state leader should not have control over the media in regards to what's being said by that media. Now, if this person, Kimmel, was saying something slanderous, yes, the president or prime minister could go through the proper court procedures and sue someone for slander or whatever. But in this case, Kim, I support his being fired, but I'm presuming it's been entirely the choice of the network itself, without any coercion. And I hope I'm right about that. But because Kimmel went beyond the bounds of social decency, and we've been seeing this from the left in the last generation or so. There's an erosion of our sense of propriety and morality, all in the name of left-wing concepts of progress and rebellion and free expression of whatever they like to express, whether it's right or wrong. So yeah, he should have been. He should have. I agree with his canceling. It probably came from, like some callers have alluded, from public outrage. Letter writing more so than from the
phone
state
calls,
authority.
Probably phone calls, emails to television stations, whatever. Maybe.
I'm sure there'll be public response because the majority of Americans do not support the assassination. Now, having said that, a lot of Canadians are getting up in arms about abuse of free expression. But I think we should look at our own backyard first. We've had public figures like Jordan Peterson being driven out of the country through persecution. We've had, I don't want to get into the anti-vax movement, but we've had scientists opposed to the mandates who have been leaving the positions. And we've had a lot of state authority directly taking effect against freedom of expression in Canada. So yeah, I'd say the Trump would have no right. I'd be disturbed if he had any influence in that. So I think it was a public opinion, more public.
You think you think it was public opinion and not government pressure? Fair enough. Okay, thank you, Albert. Be right back. Hour number 2, well underway now on the Jimmy Kimmel episode, maybe the final episode. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
On the Charlie Kirk, the Jimmy Kimmel show being pulled off the air for comments he made about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. We're gathering a reaction to that news today. 1-833-668-2577. Was it deserved? Some people are suggesting it's the actions of a dictator, Donald Trump, who wants to silence critics. What do you say? Greg in Kitchener. Hi, Greg. You're up next.
Hi. Thanks for taking the call.
A pleasure.
Okay. Just bottom line is I'm going to say, no, he didn't deserve to have the show canceled. But now my question in line with this is there a concrete definition of freedom of speech out there, or is it just a term and then it's wide open? Because some things eventually get, you can't utter death threats on somebody. Well, if that was that, do I have freedom of speech to say that, or that's all of a sudden now a crime, or defamation of character? Like there's different things out there that verbally can happen, and I'm just wondering, is there a concrete definition? And then how about, let somebody more of an authority figure decide, okay, no, this doesn't add up, therefore, here's what's right. Or is there no such thing? Is it just a gray area that anybody can try to use to their side any given time? That's my first question.
Okay.
And
and what's your second question?
Like dictatorships, any countries out there that are dictatorships, are they ever by choice and the whole population is good with that, or is that all because they fear whoever was able to take control and got nothing to do with it? Because I'm not sure if anybody ever looks forward to a dictatorship. It's fine, it's okay, one person running it, but basically this is just the next thing in a number of things, because I don't follow all the different positions and figures, but all right, he doesn't like something, okay, fire them. Oh, fire them. Oh, Kimmel, get him off the air. This sounds like the next thing, and maybe a bit more in the spotlight than some of the other things out there. But I would say that it's because nobody's standing up to defend any of these things, which obviously there's a lot of outcry, so a lot of people are thinking, okay, this isn't right. But if nobody's got a pair to grow and do anything about it, well then I guess just more and more you let these things happen, at least for the next 3 years or whatever. It's gonna resemble dictatorship if that's all it takes to get his way.
Okay. So. Well, just on the first point, I've just been giving this some thought. I mean, on the first point, freedom of speech. Okay, yeah, in the United States, I mean, it's in their Constitution that they have freedom of speech. In our Constitution, our Charter of Rights is freedom of expression. which is, I guess, another way of saying freedom of speech, and people have freedom of speech. Well, you don't necessarily have freedom from the consequences of your speech, however.
Okay, like say if I was to go and say, okay, I don't like this, whatever type of thing, it's like, all right, let's start a, big mob and let's go, or just something.
Well, let's say I came on the radio. Let's say I came on the radio. Okay, I do a radio show every day. Let's say I came on the radio and I started spewing all kinds of homophobic and racist things on the radio. Okay, and I said, well, I'm allowed to say that because I have free speech.
That's what I mean.
You don't think my employer would my employer not have the right to fire me?
Okay, the employer, but then at the same time, Trump is basically...
would society not be within its right to ostracize me? Well, Rob Snow's a vile homophobe or a racist or whatever. People can have free speech. It doesn't mean they're free from the consequences of whatever they say on any given day.
Right. Okay. So, but basically, if this is all ultimately affected for what Trump's going to think about them, then basically, these companies firing people or whatever, it'd be nice to see, do they really feel like doing this? Or are they scared of him too, that they're next?
Well, isn't that it? Exactly. Yeah. Did they succumb to political pressure? That's it. That's part kind of 2 of the equation here. Thank you, Greg. Do we have time to take one more? Do you want to take one more? Let's take one more. Come on. Let's do it. Who are we going to next, Curtis? Halifax or Kitchener? John and Kitchener? Doug in Halifax? Okay, Doug in Halifax. Okay. Hi, Doug.
Hey, Rob. How are you?
Very good, Doug. Yeah. Good. We can fit you in, Doug.
Caller. I'm excited.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think you're kind of building on my point with the last caller. This is really about what you can and can't say on television. And, these guys aren't getting paid out of the goodness of the network's hearts. These are advertisers. And the advertisers basically are paying the salaries. They're keeping the network afloat. When you look at what happened with Colbert earlier this year, and he apparently had the highest ratings. He apparently was the most desirable late show. That would indicate, even after his cancellation, everyone else was struggling even far worse than he was. If you can't be advertiser friendly, they start cutting the funding. That's putting an already struggling program into a further point of struggle. I think that's what it is. You can look at what Trump said. You can really look at what the public has said and what he said. He may have crossed the line, but I think at the end of the day, this is really about a means to an end, and that's time for them to pull the plug.
All right. Glad we could fit you in. Good call. Thank you. Good angle to explore there, Doug. Beholden to advertisers, beholden to viewers. And, if advertisers were calling and say, we're not going to advertise on a show where the host conducts themselves like that and they're inundated. Maybe they got, who knows, 100,000 emails, 10,000 phone calls. Maybe there was that kind of uproar in the background. I don't know. But we could explore it with your help on Talkback today here on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
What do you think about the Jimmy Kimmel show being pulled off the air? Kelly in Lethbridge, Alberta. Hi, Kelly. What do you think, Kelly?
Hi, Rob.
Hi.
I totally disagree with him being canceled. He's not canceled yet. He's on suspension, but I doubt he ever gets to come back because probably what will happen is he'll have to be under a set of rules of things he can say and things he can't say, and he'll never agree to it. So we've probably seen the last of Jimmy, just like, by June 1st, we'll have seen the last of Colbert, and probably, the other late nights aren't far behind. But I think that if it weren't for the FCC, it would have been a different story. But they have a lot of control, and I think that as you have a daily show, and that if you were to say, sorry about that.
That's okay.
If you were to say some of the things like homophobic slurs and things that would probably get you kicked off the radio, we'd probably think you were a Fox Network affiliate. That's what we would think, because they seem to have no control over the lies that they tell or the things that they say.
Okay. You think there's a double standard? A double standard?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay. Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
So,
When you hear that Trump wants to silence his critics and that this is creeping authoritarianism, what do you think about that? Is that something you agree with?
100%. I think
100%.
Well, when you
Okay.
look at all the norms that he's crushing, that's just one more. He's crushing norms all over the place. He's stomping all over the Constitution. He's, he can say what he wants without any consequences. He can say whatever. He can tell lies without any consequences. And yeah, he can degrade people, and there's just no consequences. And I think that, if I don't know, I hate to say it, but he's probably a Russian asset. And getting all his directions.
I don't know about that.
Yeah,
I don't know about that, but okay. We'll have to wrap it up there anyway. They're playing the music. So thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Look, there's a half an hour left. If you want to get in on this conversation, it's been a hot one today. There are a couple of free lines available. We're just kicking it around today. Jimmy Kimmel's show pulled off the air because of comments he made about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Some people are saying this is Trump trying to silence his critics. This is Trump showing he wants to be a dictator. 1-833-668-2577. The latest breaking news is next on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
So we've been talking about Jimmy Kimmel and his show being pulled off the air. Was that deserved for the comments he made about the assassination of Charlie Kirk, or are these the actions of a dictator in the United States? Because some people think that Donald Trump was behind this through his proxy, the FCC, which threatened to pull licenses of ABC affiliates, and that this is another sign of Trump wanting to silence his critics. What do you think? Donnie is up next in Halifax. Hi, Donnie.
Hi, Rob. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, my pleasure, Donnie. Go ahead. What do you think?
I guess, so far, the biggest thing I have is that people are saying that Jimmy Kimmel made a comment about the assassination, and which indirectly, I guess he did. But if you go back and watch the clip, he made a comment about the politicians and how they were treating the assassination and what they were doing afterwards. And in my opinion, what got him in the most trouble was the clip that he showed of Donald Trump afterwards, saying when he was asked a question about Charlie Kirk, and he responded with a very quick, "Oh, I'm okay with it," and then proceeded to talk about his ridiculous ballroom that hasn't been built in 150 years.
Let me just jump in there, because for the listeners who may not have heard it or seen it, we have it. So we'll play them back to back, the two clips back to back. Curtis, go ahead.
He hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them, and doing everything they can to score political points from it. You can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House.
Yes. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction.
Okay. So what do you think about those comments?
That just proves my point right there, right? Like, I mean, I get it that he may have said something like it could be taken as that there was a conspiracy theory that MAGA did all of this, but I didn't read it as that, and I can understand if people want to see it that way. But he didn't say anything indirectly about Charlie Kirk. He didn't say anything like celebrating his death or anything. He went on and talked about, and to be fair, all politicians do this. Whenever there's a mass shooting or anything, it gets politicized right away, and they did that. They politicized it, and he commented on it. As for him being taken off the air, ABC has a right to do what they want because he doesn't have freedom of speech on their network. Like, lack of a better term, I believe they're a private network. So they can take him off when they want. But they were pressured by another company that is trying to purchase another company that would put them over the limit of what, and guess who has to approve that deal?
The FCC. Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. You're right there.
Yes.
We haven't really talked about that angle yet. There is this big merger happening, right? They don't want to get on the bad side of Donald Trump because they want this merger to go through. That will create the largest company in the United States with the most local TV stations. I think it's like more than 200 stations or something like that.
And it would give them, I believe, again, lack of a better term, I would believe to give them a monopoly. They have a rule about how much is allowed to be owed. None of this was made after Monday. Nothing was brought up, and then all of a sudden, the commissioner of the FCC was on a right-wing podcast talking about it. Basically, gave a wink and a nod to Netstar, and this is how it all unfolded.
I had that quote right in front of me. I can read you the quote. This is from the Hollywood Reporter. Quote, this is Carr of the FCC, the chair of the FCC, Brendan Carr. What people don't understand is that broadcasters have a license granted by us at the FCC. That comes with it an obligation to operate in the public interest. When we see stuff like this, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. These companies can find ways to change conduct on Kimmel, or there's going to be additional work for the FCC.
Exactly.
Kind of sounds like a threat, right?
Yeah, like they just, it's the same thing he did with the Colbert show. He just goes about it a roundabout way. So to your question, is this, dictatorship type thing? He's just using his democratic government to be able to push and pull things so that he gets what he wants. The other thing I'll say is that before this election, when there was a lot of comedians going on and talking about how comedy is being censored by the left wing and all this, I really want to know where they're going to come out on this now, because he's doing the exact same thing. It's just the other side doing it to the other side, right or wrong. Okay. But this is they're being silenced in one way or another. It's cancel culture. And I do have to run, but I will say one other thing, because I heard you asking about, or I heard a previous person commenting about, when would they compare Donald Trump to, historical dictators such as Hitler and stuff like that. I really think Donald Trump wants that, and because then they can be shown as idiots, because of course Hitler did egregious things on this world and to a specific set of people. And when you compare what he's doing to what Hitler did, it just kind of writes off the person as an idiot, if you kind of get what I mean.
Okay, Donnie, thank you. You've made some good points. Scott in Kitchener up next. Scott. Hi, Scott. We don't have a lot of time here, Scott. All right, well, why don't we just stop here, because we're pretty up against it anyway. And we'll come back, and then we'll go back to Halifax. And we'll get Joe on the air. Hear what Joe has to say about things. I'm Rob Snow. Talkback, lots of time. Probably time for half a dozen more calls before we call it a day here for Talkback, but we'd love to have your take on it. Some very thoughtful commentary so far. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
On the Jimmy Kimmel Show being pulled off the air, let's get to Joe in Halifax today. Hello, Joe.
How's it going, Rob?
Very good, Joe. What's your opinion, please?
I don't agree with them being taken off the air, but it's kind of, I'd echo a lot of your points. You're free to your opinion, but there could be consequences to your opinion too, depending on how robust the speech laws are in your country too, right?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but these FCC regulated networks receive like tax benefits or something like that.
I don't know about that. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I just don't know.
But I think there's laws on the books. I think it's called the Fairness Act or something like that. That these networks have to follow these rules in order to receive these. I think there's benefits on the line, but
there may be, sir. I don't know. That's beyond my knowledge. So yeah.
Well, I think they're obligated under this act to provide. If you're going to provide one side of the argument for the left, you need to provide the right side of the argument for the right.
Okay, well, that may have to do with news coverage or current events coverage. I'm not sure about a late night talk show. Whether that would.
But wouldn't Jimmy just be able to put a show on a different network then if he's so popular? You know what I mean?
Maybe we'll soon find out. We'll soon find out. Yeah, start YouTube. There are any number of platforms, right? There are any number of platforms.
But it's just this network that is deeming that they don't want his opinion on their network, right?
For now, yeah.
So that's just pretty much. I thought there was rules on the books as far as these FCC regulated networks that I'm pretty sure there was rules on the books as far as that, and Trump's just enforcing them because it's hard to find a right-leaning side to media nowadays, really.
Well, in the United States, well, thank you. But in the United States, there's a vast array of opinion. You have CNN, kind of left wing. You have MSNBC, totally left wing. You have Fox News, unapologetically, Republican, conservative. News Nation, kind of the same thing. Newsmax on the right. You see it in the print media. New York Times is totally liberal. Wall Street Journal is more conservative. USA Today is kind of right down the middle. That's the thing about the United States. Opinion is everywhere and all over the place in the American media.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if this is the end of Jimmy Kimmel, would another traditional network want to pick him up and take that risk? I don't know. Could Jimmy Kimmel go and, launch some kind of independent thing? For sure. Megyn Kelly left Fox News. Now she does her own thing that gets more viewers than like CNN, MSNBC combined. It's like that Megyn Kelly show has been a tremendous success all on her own with like a half a dozen people.
There's a lot of narrative. It seems like there's a narrative to push a lot of the time. Not your show specifically, Rob, which is why I agree. Listen to it so often, but a lot of the framing is there's definitely leanings to both sides.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah, for sure. Thank you. Okay, Joe, good to hear from you today, Joe. Thanks for the kind words and for listening. Curtis is in Kitchener today. Hi, Curtis.
Hi, how are you, Rob?
Very good, Curtis. What do you think about this show being pulled from the air?
Yeah, I agree.
You agree?
Here's what. Yeah, because, like you said earlier, which is what a point I was going to make, is you have freedom of speech, but you don't have freedom of consequences. That's pretty as simple as that. And it's funny to me that, people are acting like this wasn't an assassination. He got the ultimate cancellation for his freedom of speech. So, you can't go around making fun of it and celebrating it. You must have seen the people online celebrating and they did say on the news, ABC got a backlash like you wouldn't believe about what was said.
Oh, so, perhaps so. Yeah.
And I've listened to it and I think it was in poor taste and, especially immediately and at the very minimum, maybe an apology at the very minimum, but I'm okay with it that he's, in limbo right now. He's not actually canceled. They said suspended indefinitely.
That's right.
So, it could go either way for him, I think. But like you said, there is other things on the line for them that, the writers probably should have thought of that. And maybe he should have thought of that.
Isn't that it? Isn't that it? There's so many things that seem to kind of go over the head of Jimmy Kimmel and his team. First of all, you have a story. This Charlie Kirk was killed barely a week ago. That has created even deeper and deeper divides in the United States and a lot of anger.
Yep. And here in
And
Canada,
I just wonder, like, were they really thinking so soon after the fact that comments like that would be appropriate? I get it. You want to be edgy. You want to push the envelope. But
right.
A whole show, a whole team of writers. I mean, it's not like Jimmy Kimmel is just writing all of this stuff himself. They would work all day together as a team. And yet none of the people in that room managed to stop and think for a moment, hey, gee, should we really say this right now? Or are we flying a bit too close to the sun with this?
But they're very left-leaning, and that's just the nature of that. I mean, it's been put out there that Democrats should be, the way they are nowadays. And this is from 30-long-year Democrats. They think they should be considered a terrorist organization now. There is millions going to the Republican side or becoming independent because of this, and because of so many things in the past from the Democrats. So I think they're making their bed and they need to lie in it. It's that simple.
Thank you, Curtis. Be right back. This is Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
All right, let's get right to Linda in southern Alberta on the Jimmy Kimmel show being pulled off the air. Hi, Linda. What do you think?
Hi. Well, I don't think it was right. I kind of think, he probably came a little close to the line or maybe crossed the line a little bit, but I think it's the interpretation you get from what he said, how you interpret it. Hello?
Yeah, I'm right here, Linda. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I think it's just how you interpret it. For me, it's like, he was not attacking the shooter or Charles. He was kind of addressing the base, right?
The MAGA base, you mean?